Hey there, I'm just going to be sharing with you my final portfolio for my English 301 Professional Writing in the Humanities class. Able to create a lot of different intriguing multimedia composition projects throughout this class this semester, including a podcast, a Twitter coding report, but specifically today I'll be sharing with you a video poem and vertical video report that I completed. Each taught me a significant amount about writing and composing in the crazy digital media age we're living in currently. So, for our video poem project, we were tasked with creating a video that communicated the meaning of a poem we selected, with the aim being to gauge the more abstract of the poem rather than the literal. I really enjoyed this project because it gave me the chance to be creative, and I love that I got to do something that just let me be figurative and expressive for once. Because Lord knows I've written enough analytical, serious papers in college to last me a lifetime, so being able to do something more fun and free was really enjoyable. So the way I did this, I first started by selecting the poem. I wanted to find something that was about the joyfulness of life's simplicity because that had been something I'd been really thinking about a lot having to be in quarantine. And actually, I don't read that much poetry myself, so I actually went online to Facebook to a private group that I'm in on there called Babes Who Blade. Basically, it's just a bunch of people who live in the Triangle area asking for advice, ranting, recommendations, things like that. But someone had previously asked about good poems before, and so I looked on that thread and found Don't Hesitate by Mary Oliver. So I had the poem, next was the video. I decided to start with music first because I think the music really sets the mood of the entire piece, so I usually start there. Um, for this poem, I wanted something that sounded really upbeat, but also somewhat somber and moody. So what I did to find the music, disclaimer, I'm an avid music listener myself, and I wanted it to be perfect. So I literally went through and wrote down every possible song I thought had a good instrumental for something like this. And eventually I settled on the Dest Ex Mito remix of a song called Molly by Playboy Cardi. This song itself is actually a prime example of different mixings of media made possible in our culture today. Playboy Cardi is a rapper who produces most of his music himself and takes a lot of samples from other artists and mixes them a lot of times in his bedroom on his computer. So anyway, I got the instrumental version of this mix and that's what I used for my video. So here's a little snippet of it. So now for the media clips. So this was a long process. I knew I needed a ton of clips because I wanted them to be able to flash by, since the message of the poem was to soak up joy as it comes and kind of live every moment as you get it, because life is just one small fleeting thing that we experience. So I wanted the video to be depicting small joys in a person's life in that sense. And so I did this by thinking about myself, the little things I personally enjoy, which would be like riding in cars with my friends with the windows down and then like laughing, sunsets, flowers. So I started by going on Pinterest to find all these things, and I would find any clips I could that related to any of those smaller joys. I wanted them to be a mix, though, of looking like highly produced from a movie or a TV show, and then also more of that at-home iPhone quality. I kind of was doing that to show that these joys can be experienced by literally anyone. And so then I collected all of them on their own Pinterest board and then used Snagit to grab all of them down and download them onto my computer to make the video. The composing itself after this was super easy. All I had to do was put them in the Adobe Rush program, which thankfully is a super straightforward program, and then once I had them in there, I just cut the clips to match them with the audio as best I could, and then added the text in for the poem, and that was it. So to transition to my Silent Sam video, this was much different than the video poem that we just looked at. This project was rather the video version of a report I originally wrote on research we conducted as a class, observing the Silent Sam statue at UNC and the conversation of it on Twitter. This video was much more serious in nature, but I was still able to get some creativity in there. The most important element of this video, though, was the fact that it was done with a vertical orientation as opposed to the traditional horizontal one. We decided to explore this orientation as a class from a composing perspective because the digital social media age has really resulted in a huge shift to vertical video format. I personally use this a ton on social media through Instagram stories primarily, also Snapchat too, but really, really Instagram stories. So for the video though, I wanted a really good solid intro that gave the background rundown on Silent Sam, kind of through the use of videos and news clips that I would find. I thought this would give it a more like emotionally engaging aspect. I felt these contextualized the statue well, but then also gave it a sense of the emotion that went into this decision, and that's one aspect of video composing that's uniquely powerful as opposed to traditional essay writing or regular narration, is that you can really explain a lot in a few seconds of video that would otherwise take a few paragraphs to write. So again, using good old Snagit, I got all those media clips, downloaded them onto my computer, and then they were ready for some composing. But the next step then was the music. I just sat down and thought about songs that I personally like that might fit the feel, and I came up with Lemon Glow by Beach House. So I just put that in, and then I trimmed it a little bit to keep up with the pace of the intro, and then that was it. Once the intro was done, next came the bringing in of the actual media clips. Admittedly, though, I really struggled to make this interesting and visually stimulating, but one pro about the vertical video format using Rush is that ability to stack multiple clips upon one another at once. I incorporated this to keep the video stimulating while also telling a more effective story, since I could kind of put a lot of things on one space. An area I struggled into was trying to balance a more creative and really high energy intro I had made with the kind of mundane narrations of the actual research. So my first version actually struggled with this a lot, and so for my revision I ended up picking this video to redo. I mainly just focused on rebalancing the intro and the narrative, and then a lot of that had to do with adjusting my audio. Originally I had it stopping really abruptly, but I ended up ultimately engineering a fading out, which really helped a lot. And then I also redid some of my own narration to make it more succinct and enthused, and brought in some more visual content to keep it stimulating. And then I also brought in some title slides to keep the viewer on track. Overall, I think it's a lot better. It's a lot more engaging now.
Emotions boiling over in Chapel Hill, with flags proudly raised.
This statue has been here for more than 100 years.
Police found themselves in the middle of competing protests.
So to conclude, in terms of content, these two projects were super similar to each other, but also very different. In terms of composition, both were gone about in largely the same way, using Snagit and Rush, and then both taught me a lot about video editing and introduced me to some great tools in that process. But the big learning takeaway relates to the multimedia composing aspect and kind of this weird digital area we're currently living in, where everybody is a creator of original content, but also completely unoriginal content at the same time. And both videos, I was technically making my own original video piece, but both were almost entirely made from somebody else's content. So we can see instances of this all over social media these days. I mean, just the other day, I myself posted a selfie I took of me edited into this really pretty sky background that I had taken from another artist. So like, who should get the artistic merit in some of these cases? It's kind of hard to say, but at the same time, having access to these different media constantly provides a lot of opportunity to learn new things and create and compose in ways that have never been before possible. So we are truly living in an age of information. Some may even say it's an age of too much information, but I personally think we're kind of living in a communication renaissance currently that kind of excites me. Even so, both videos show what can be achieved creatively through this kind of production, both a really more serious report-like video like the Silent Sam one, and then also a wholly artistic, very producerly-like work, which was the video poem. The Silent Sam video is particularly of interest, though, due to like its vertical nature. I had never considered how this orientation affects our comprehension and visual exposure of content before I took this class, but now I can see that the ability to thread multiple narratives on one screen at once like that is actually super effective. What is really interesting to consider too is that mass communication methods, really just TV, are still on the horizontal format. So I would be really excited to see how this changes in coming years as mobile and digital continue to reign the most popular. And I kind of also wonder how our comprehension abilities will morph or transform with that change too. Overall, though, we learned a ton about composing in the digital age and what it means, and how we really do interact with the world around us now, thanks to things like Twitter and video poems and podcasts, and all these different things that we learned how to do, and how the humanities are really kind of responding to this weird digital crazy age we're living in. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super interesting and insightful.